All right, so this is going to be what I consider a hot Thomas take. For those of you that have watched Family Guy, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When I do the hot. Just look it up. You'll laugh. It's very funny. I'm Ryan Thomas, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the Thomas Take Sports Podcast live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at Thomas Takeover. Thank you so much. This is definitely going to be an episode that is going to ruffle some feathers. There's no doubt about it. But this has got to be said. This has got to be done. This has got to be put out there. I have to be the one to do it because nobody else is going to say it. Nobody else might even think it. Or no one else might not even think it's okay to say, but I will say it. Despite the fact that Buffalo Bills fans are the quote-unquote best fan base in football, I think most fan bases would agree to that. You have to have some loyal, thankful fans to get behind a team, 75,000 strong, year in and year out, during what was a 17-year playoff drought. A team in which, we go back to the great, quote-unquote, great years of their history. They went to 4 straight Super Bowls. They lost every one. And yet, years and years and years later, generations later, they're still selling tickets. They're still, packing the house with 75,000 strong, or 72 or 73,000 strong nowadays. And that is something that I've embraced on this podcast. I love the Bills fans. I really do. Men, women. I love communicating with all the Bills fans. And they are very well traveled. They are definitely throughout the country. I've learned that. I have heard, I remember before I started this podcast, I'd always, we always knew that the Bills fan base was legit. But starting this podcast, it really opened my eyes to the wingspan that this fan base has. The fans are great. But I oftentimes kind of separate myself from the fan base because I'm a sports writer, I'm a podcast host, and I'm also a fan. But I separate myself from the fan base as a sports writer and as a podcast host because most fans are not willing to put their opinion out there on the live air or put pen to paper and represent a website. And that's something that I learned over time. Going to school and learning how to write properly, and really challenge others with opinion mixed with fact. That's been the credo of this podcast and of my writing career. So, along the way, I've seen a trend, and that trend is 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 17, and now here we are in 18. I've really noticed it within the last 5 years. I think my rite of passage as a Bills fan was turning 21, and every Bills fan knows what I mean by that. When you turn 21 as a Bills fan, it's like you become a different fan because you can consume alcohol legally in New York State. And that's a part of the experience as well at a Bills game, as everybody knows. I'm not diving through tables. I'm not doing the stupid stuff that most people glorify and think it's great. I think it's pretty damn stupid, to be quite honest. But anyway, these last 5 years, I've noticed a real trend, and it's a problem with the Bills fans. And maybe it's not all their fault. Maybe to an extent I understand it. But there is always a dark cloud hanging over the heads of Buffalo Bills fans this time of year. For every one fan that is extremely excited about this season, really wants to just wait and see, as this wait-and-see optimistic approach towards the Buffalo Bills with Brandon Beane, with Sean McDermott, with Josh Allen, with Tremaine Edmonds. For every one fan that, like myself, that really dives into the scouting process and learning as much about these players as they possibly can. For every one fan like me, there's probably 5 Bills fans that have this dark cloud hanging over their heads saying that A.J. McCarron sucks, Nathan Peterman sucks, Josh Allen, they drafted the wrong Josh. I've heard that line tons of times. And my response to that is, you do not know that. You don't know that. Brandon Beane doesn't know that. Sean McDermott doesn't know that. No one knows at this point in 2018, before their rookie seasons have started, whether or not the Buffalo Bills, quote-unquote, drafted the wrong Josh. There's also the quote out there that the Buffalo Bills wide receiving core is terrible. No, the wide receiving core isn't terrible. The wide receiving core is unproven. There's a huge difference. Unproven meaning that they're green, that they haven't played a lot, that there's Austin Proehl, Austin Riley, Andre Holmes. There's some guys in the wide receiver core that are a little bit green. That does not mean that they're terrible. We can't say that they're terrible because they haven't played yet. We haven't seen what they can do yet. Training camp hasn't even started yet. So to say that the wide receiving core is quote-unquote terrible, I think that's a huge misrepresentation of who this team has on their roster. Furthermore, to question whether or why the Buffalo Bills traded up for a quarterback, and that quarterback that they traded up for, questioning not whether they traded up, but they didn't question prior to the draft whether the Bills should or shouldn't trade up. Every Buffalo Bills fan, except for me actually, wanted the Buffalo Bills to trade up for a quarterback. I didn't. I wanted them to stand pat if possible or trade up in a move that would not allow them to trade their first-round picks in next year's draft. They went with the latter. They traded from 12 to 7, and they gave up 2 second-round picks to do so. Meanwhile, they still have their first-round pick in 2019. Meanwhile, they got a quarterback that I have watched hours of tape on and can honestly say that he was the perfect fit for this town, for this team, and you know, I could say this community as well, the community of the fan base, the Bills Mafia. It will work. I'm very confident in that. I wouldn't say it if I didn't feel it. But anyways, we as Bills fans have to understand that the logo might look the same. The Buffalo Bills logo might look the same, but the perception of the team currently among the NFL ranks, among the top executives, among the other 31 teams in the National Football League is a far cry in comparison to what it was 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And I'm saying that as a positive. Other teams in the National Football League are looking at the Bills right now, and they're looking at them saying, wow, this team made the playoffs last year. This team brought in some defensive acquisitions, Trey White via the first round in the 2017 NFL Draft, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer. They have a leader in Kyle Williams that has shown his willingness to compete and play hard for this community. They have a coach that really preached the change of not just, we're going to change the culture. No, we're going to trust the process. We're going to move forward with what we think is the best idea for this team. We do not care what Pundit A, Pundit B, Pundit C has to say. We're going to do what's best for the Buffalo Bills organization. We're not going to make guarantees. We're not going to boast. We're going to go to work and look at this as a 9-to-5 factory job and do what we need to do in order to get better. And that's what they did. And that's what they're doing. So for anyone to really misinterpret this right now and say, the Bills will be terrible. They'll be 3-13, 4-12. I heard that last year. I heard that a lot last year. And last year, I could partially say that I could understand it. New head coach. Knew this, knew that, new offense, I get it. I got it. Good. I got it good in 2017. But when I was a part of the Rochester Sports Network, which I no longer am, I have my own opportunities and stuff that I put that on the back burner and move forward. The the article that I wrote had the Bills going 9-7 and making the playoffs. And lo and behold, they did. And the reason why I believe they did then, and the reason why I believe they will now, is that this McBean era has only just begun. They've only just begun. And that is the main message that I have for Buffalo Bills fans. Whether LeSean McCoy is in a ridiculous situation or not, a situation that no Bills fan wishes he was in, we will be all right as long as we have Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott. Hopefully they don't have a moment like in Dodgeball with Patches O'Houlihan's on the motorized wheelchair and the Luck of the Irish sign doesn't fall on either one of them. That would take the wind out of our sails. Joking aside, these guys are the faces of this franchise. Not Josh Allen, not Tremaine Edmonds, not LeSean McCoy. The faces of the franchise are Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane. And until they prove me wrong, I'm going to assume that they're going to prove me right. Because that's all they've done. That is all they've done is prove me right. Prove me right in that I believe that they have a vision for the future. Puzzle piece A is going to fit with puzzle piece B. Puzzle piece C is going to fit with puzzle piece D. Everything will fall into place the way it's supposed to. I believe that this team is being built on destiny. And it sounds corny. You can say whatever you want. But when I watched the 2018 NFL Draft, when the draft got started, me nor you had any idea what the Buffalo Bills were going to do. And if you were going to tell me the Buffalo Bills would end up with Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills would end up with Tremaine Edmonds, the Buffalo Bills would end up with Wyatt Teller in the 5th round, the Buffalo Bills would essentially draft, for my money, the second best quarterback in the draft to Darnold. I like Darnold a lot. But in terms of talent, Allen, and in terms of the best linebacker in this draft would be Tremaine Edmonds. If you were to also tell me that one of the most tenacious, biggest chip on their shoulder type players in college would be drafted by the Buffalo Bills and Harrison Phillips at a real position of need. Whether people want to believe it or not, Kyle Williams doesn't have much longer left, but Adolphus Washington and really mediocre depth. Harrison Phillips was a huge addition to this team, and people will see that on Sundays. They will understand it. They bring in Trent Murphy. They get Shaq Lawson thinking he's got to get it into gear. And that's something that no Bills regime previously would do. If Shaq Lawson was on any other Buffalo Bills regime outside of this one, they wouldn't have said a thing to him. They would have casted him off for nothing, traded him away for a 6th, 5th, or 4th round pick. But instead, they are going to make Shaq Lawson work his ass off in order to stay on this team. It's the little things that add up. It's the little things that add up for me, and it's the little things that get missed by a lot of Bills fans that have this pessimistic, negative approach towards each and every start of every season. And I've heard this the last 5 years. Oh, they're going to be terrible. Oh, they're going to be really awful. Oh, they're going to be this. Oh, they're going to be that. How do you know? When they have a new offensive coordinator, they have 2 new quarterbacks, they have 2 new linebackers, they have a new defensive tackle, and they went 9-7 last year, despite all these needs. How do you know if they will be worse? You don't. Let's let the season play out. Let's enjoy the fact that we have 2 great ambassadors for this team in Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott. And let's buckle up and get into gear for 2018. I'm Ryan Thomas. It was the Thomas Take. Take care.